This is one of those videos where I feel like I should start off by reintroducing myself. My name is Lydia Foxglove, and I have been a full-time fantasy author since 2009. And at the beginning of 2024, I also moved into making YouTube videos as kind of a part-time gig. So I've had a lot of experience with my own creative career, things I've done wrong, things I've watched other people around me do wrong, as well as what the people who are succeeding are doing or not doing. So I wanted to make a video discussing some of the common mistakes I see people who are not finding success repeat over and over and over again. And I did some of these, I'm still doing some of these, but these I would say are very, very common mistakes that can lead to failure. So let's just get right into them. Number one is not doing enough research into very basic or even intermediate best practices. Just jumping into something without really researching what does well and why you would do it that way. On this channel, I talk a lot about creating things just for yourself or how to sell something that's a little quirky. And I'm a big believer in that it's really important, if at all possible, to make some things that don't follow best practices. This video is going to be a little more focused on you want to make money at this, you want this to be a business. So you need to treat it like a business. And just be aware of what's working, what's not working. I did a whole video recently on how much time I spend researching the book market on Amazon before I would write a single word, because if you don't know the market, how are you going to write to market? This can seem kind of obvious, but I see people not doing it all the time. If you want to start a YouTube channel, spend one day of your life just watching all those YouTube videos about here's how to succeed on YouTube. Here's how to do good thumbnails. Because yes, you're going to see a lot of the same advice repeated, and some of it is going to seem kind of obvious. That doesn't always mean that it's easy to follow along with what you've learned. Sometimes it can be quite difficult, but if you don't even know what the starting point is, you're just going to spend a lot of stupid time doing things that go nowhere. Then you're going to get frustrated. I can't tell you how often I see people start YouTube channels and they just title their video something like "A Day in My Life, Episode 1. Now you put all this work into making the video, and you didn't even put any keywords in your title. You didn't give anyone any reason to click on the video. There's nothing to grab people. So yeah, whatever it is, whether it's marketing or the actual product, spend a little time researching. You're still going to make mistakes, but you will make less of them right off the bat. Number two, not preparing for burnout. There's a point in your creative career path where maybe things are just starting to take off a little, or maybe they're starting to take off in a big way. But this is particularly true when you are starting to rely on this income. You just don't prepare for burnout. Like in the indie author community, there are a lot of pre-orders. You could put up a pre-order of a whole series and say, here's everything that I'm going to be publishing for the next year. I'm still writing it, but I'm putting up those pre-orders so that I can start collecting pre-orders. I've seen people do this, but there's a big risk to putting up a bunch of pre-orders or just making any kind of big plans with very little wiggle room. If you are young, or maybe even if you're old, if you're lucky, you may have never experienced burnout before. The kind of burnout where it's one day, everything's fine, you're cranking it out, and then all of a sudden, you just hit a wall. You cannot do the things that you've always in the past been able to do. Maybe suddenly you're having anxiety attacks. There's a lot of pressure on you. You're starting to build an audience. Maybe you're just working too hard. You're never taking a break. Maybe something bad happens in your life. There's a death in the family, and you have this crazy schedule, and now your brain is scrambled, or you get sick. So whatever it is that you're doing, I always try to give myself a little room for the unexpected. Whether it's just, oh my gosh, I need to rest, or whoa, I got the flu this year, the flu. I was experiencing a lot of burnout a few years ago, and I was already kind of scaling back a little because I was just struggling with emotional burnout, and then my father-in-law died and left us his whole house of stuff to deal with, and there was no way that I was going to get a bunch of writing done. It was so overwhelming. It pretty much put my whole career on ice for a couple of years. I only got out like a couple of books during that time. So it was a very good thing that I did not have a whole lot going on, because I still had to finish 2 books after he died, and that was really something, trying to squeeze that in. And it is extremely common for those of us doing creative work to get burned out and not take care of our mental health. My sponsor for this video, BetterHelp, has been a real gift to me this year, because I had already been researching online therapists when they reached out to me. I have been dealing with some of my worst anxiety in over a decade. After Hurricane Helene hit my small town, wiped out my beloved job at Little Used Bookstore, a lot of my hard work, all the relationships I had in town, seeing people every day, on top of what had already been a few rough years. I knew I needed to do something because my anxiety was starting to take over my life. It's really easy to get started with BetterHelp. I filled out the questionnaire, and within 24 hours of signing up, I had an appointment. You can easily switch therapists at any time with no cost if it's not the right fit, but my first match has been wonderful. I have this video upcoming for you guys about using TikTok for marketing. And I will be honest, I don't think this video would exist without my therapist, because it's taken a lot of work and research. I've been seeing my therapist for about a month now, and she has helped me get past those bouts of anxiety. And as a result, I've just had way more mental energy this month. I had been trying to deal with my problems alone with self-help books and so on, but having a real person to listen to me and give me advice with a real voice I can summon to mind when I'm struggling, I didn't realize just how much that would matter. And with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. My sponsor, BetterHelp, is on a mission to make therapy easier. Visit betterhelp.com/thecozycreative or click the link in the description for 10% off your first month of therapy. Number 3 mistake, taking on an overambitious project that you are not able to deliver. I made this mistake myself with when I planned a 9-book series, and it failed miserably. There was a chance that if I had made it to the finish line and written all 9 books and had a full series to promote, maybe I could have made it worth it. But by the time I got to book 5, I was getting so broke that I had to bail on the whole series. And this causes me great pain to this day, because I put so much into planning this in advance. I thought it had all the tropes going on. I thought it was going to be so great, but it was just too much. I didn't plan for what would I do if the series failed completely. And it's possible that maybe the reason it did fail is because it was such a long series, and that people just didn't even want to try it because they thought, what if she doesn't finish it? And they were correct, because no one did, so I wasn't able to finish it. It is a big risk to take on a really huge thing that you've never done before and that just feels like it's almost beyond your ability. Now, sometimes you should try crazy big things, and sometimes you try it and it doesn't work and you just have to stop, and that happens with every kind of business. It does. But the thing that I regret about me trying to do this really long, ambitious thing is that I did not really plan for what I would do if it didn't sell. And if I had thought about it a little better, I probably should have just broken it up into smaller series, giving me points of completion, points where I could exit. So if you can scale something like that down a little bit, it's a good idea, because you are definitely taking a risk when you do something like that. Number 4, taking on too many marketing channels. When I see people first start a creative business, one of the things that they will sometimes do is try to be everywhere all at once, right from the start. And if you're one of those people who's like, well, I actually have a degree in marketing and this is already what I did for a company for 20 years, well, you might have a pretty good idea of how you can manage it. But if this is your first time really trying to use any of the social media platforms to market yourself, and you try to be on all of them simultaneously and master all of them simultaneously, it is a bad idea. Pick one to start, get good at that one, and then once you kind of have a groove with that one, try adding a second one. And it's perfectly fine to just pick one or two social media channels where you feel the most comfortable and like you really understand what kind of content works on that platform and you like making it, and just staying there and not trying to be on every platform. These days it is very difficult to really manage a good social media presence on every platform that people are using. So I would say don't even try unless marketing is one of your big passions and areas of knowledge, or you get to the point where you can hire somebody to do it. Number 5, working harder instead of smarter, particularly with your social media presence. Not only do I see people try to be on all the social media platforms all at once, but I also see them trying to make like time-intensive content. Like if you get on TikTok and you're trying to make a bunch of TikToks with your own face, where you're doing a bunch of dances and skits and like different cuts and you're editing them together, well, make sure before you spend a single minute on any of that to ask yourself, like sit down, what are your actual goals with your marketing presence? And I say this as someone who had the most terrible, haphazard social media presence possible up until I got on YouTube. This is the first time that I have ever really sat down with the platform, tried to use it as a user before I started using it to sell it or like put myself out there in any way. I got to know what works, what are the good practices, what does the algorithm favor, and I really liked YouTube, so I started using it from the perspective of, I enjoy this, so I really wanted to build up, like, this is going to be the place where I have my main presence, where people get to know me, and I give writing advice, I talk about my books, I talk about my own life. I give you a little bit of everything, and not all of it has the same goal. Like when I'm giving you writing advice, I don't expect you to go buy my book. I expect you to mainly be here for writing advice. I know there will be a smaller pool of people who might watch videos about my actual books, and those are the people that I think might actually buy a book. But I have multiple goals going on here, and the reason I can juggle all those goals on YouTube is because I like YouTube and it's my main focus. But when I get on like Instagram, for example, I can't put the same amount of effort into Instagram as I put on YouTube. It's too many things for me, and I just don't like Instagram as much. So when I'm on Instagram, my main goal there is just, if you follow me there, I'm going to remind you that my books exist. And I'm actually just kind of starting to work out like an organized social media strategy for myself for almost the first time, because generally I've been more the like just throw shit at the wall just occasionally. There's no strategy, there's no schedule, there's no plan. Just one day I'm out and I post a picture of me standing in front of a cool tree, and then a month later I post a sketch I did of one of my characters' heads, and then I don't post again for 2 months. That's been my Instagram usage, and that accomplishes absolutely nothing. Likewise, if I was to get on TikTok and I started spending a ton of time like doing trending types of videos and skits and dances, that would be stupid. That would be such a waste of my time. I don't even like TikTok. So before you do anything, think about, what is your goal here? And if your only goal is actually to sell your books, then make sure that all your posts are going to sell a book. Because otherwise you're going to get burned out because you're spending too much time doing goofy TikTok dances that you don't even like, and it's not getting you anything. Number 6, kind of related, spending too much time on marketing efforts that have very low return. One common instance of this I see, with writers at least, is merch. Like currently people really do seem to be loving beautiful special edition books. So I would say if that's your thing, that seems to be worth putting time in, because you can actually see readers getting passionate about those and buying them. But you can really go down a rabbit hole with swag that I'm not sure some of it accomplishes much. Just making a bunch of bookmarks or postcards or doodads, or even like I made a collaborative tea or something. Now it's one thing if you're just having fun, you made a tea for your book, a perfume for your book, and you love these things, and so you're having a great time doing them. Of course, that's totally fine. But I'm a little skeptical that if you feel pressure to make merch or like branded products for your book. I think that can take a lot of time and money to do, like giveaways for merch, and you're shipping things, you're ordering things. It can really turn into a lot of work for not a whole lot of return. I pretty much regret every giveaway that I've ever done that was for anything except my actual book. So again, that's a real, your mileage may vary depending on your personal strategy and what kind of readers you want to attract, but I would always ask yourself, am I actually going to get people really into my book doing this compared to the time I'm spending doing it? Or am I just going to get a lot of people who want random free stuff? Mistake number 7, not setting aside income for a rough patch. I've talked about it before. I know I'm a real frugal girl, and I've kind of had to be, so you know I'm going to say this, but I have known so many creative people who had a big break, a book that really sold like crazy, and they spent all the money. And then that success started to drop off, and then they're panicking. If you ever have one big break, save that money. Now, if you're on big break number 3 or 4, maybe you can start having fun. But if you're on your first big moment, save that money, because this might be the only one you get. And you will have more ability to sustain yourself and, keep trucking along in like the mid-list, lower level of success if you're not panicked about money. And number 8, not staying focused. This is probably the one that I have the biggest problem with. Like even with my YouTube channel, I realize that I regularly confuse the YouTube algorithm because I have several different types of videos. They all are under the banner of living a creative life, but some of them are like writing craft deep dives, and some of them are more general, like what's up with the internet these days, am I right? Then sometimes I'm talking about my own novels. Like it's a little bit all over the place, so I would probably do much better with this channel if I just picked one lane, stuck with that, but I would also be very bored. And if I was bored, I would get burned out. So there's a balancing act there between staying focused on like one lane and avoiding burnout, because you can get very burned out when you're only creating stuff in one lane. Nevertheless, some people don't even seem to really be conscious of the fact that part of their problem is that they're not focused, and then they've written like 5 different types of books, and then they're like, I wonder why they're not selling. I've written all these different things. Well, that's part of the reason that they're not selling, is because you've written 5 different things. You need to just pick one and learn that space. And then if you kind of have gotten somewhere with that one, then maybe you branch out a little. That's particularly true with something like a novel, as opposed to like a YouTube video. I can make 8 YouTube videos in a month, but it's pretty hard for most people to write a book in a month, much less 8 books in a month. So you have a little less wiggle room to play around when you're doing like a long form type of creative stuff. So try to stay focused in one area, or at the very least, a couple of areas that might have crossover appeal. So those are my best tips for common mistakes to avoid, or at the least, just kind of be aware of them. Is there anything else that I forgot to add to the list, or am I totally off on this? Maybe you actually had the most amazing marketing campaign with a specialized tea. Actually, that sounds so fun to make a specialized tea. Please tell me I'm wrong, and maybe I'll go make a tea. Thank you so much to my sponsor for this video, BetterHelp. Be sure and check them out with the link in my description. And if you'd like more from me, I have a Patreon and a Substack. Same content on both, and they both have a free tier, as well as the paid tier that gets you access to 2 bonus videos a month voted on by you guys. And if you'd like to read any of my books, there's a link in the description to those too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!